Part 3 of Will Make You Scream Tonight, Korean Mafia twins manhood couldn't stand until a black lady. The Part 3 brings you all the action, passion, and heart-stopping drama. A tale of obsession, protection, and love that cannot be denied. The morning after the rain. The first thing Abiola felt was warmth. Not sunlight. Not blankets. A slow inhale pulled the scent of Bok-yun's cologne into her lungs, clean, sharp, slightly smoky. Another breath brought the familiar warmth of Hakyun's chest pressed along her back, his arm wrapped around her waist as if he'd fallen asleep mid-promise. For a moment, she didn't move. The world felt too steady, too safe, too impossible for someone caught between two mafia heirs. Her fingers tightened slightly around the fabric beneath her palm, and she realized it was Bok-yun's shirt. He lay on her right side, one hand loosely touching her hip, his breathing slow and deep, lashes dark against his cheek. Hakyun's breath stirred her hair from the back, steady and warm, his arm locked protectively around her middle as though daring anyone, any cartel, any threat, any fate, to come between them. Abiola swallowed. Last night's rain still echoed in her mind, the rooftop, the storm, the vows whispered between thunder. The way they had held her like she was something precious and irreplaceable. She should have been terrified. Instead, she felt something she didn't want to name. Slowly she tried to sit up, but the grip around her waist tightened. Hakyun, still half asleep, murmured against the nape of her neck. 5 more minutes. His voice was rough, sleepy, too honest. Abiola froze. Then Bok-yun's hand slid upward, catching her wrist gently, his voice calm but firm. "You move too much," he murmured without opening his eyes. "You'll wake him, and then you'll never escape." Her cheeks heated instantly. She cleared her throat. "I'm not escaping. I just need air." At that, both brothers finally opened their eyes. Bok-yun was the first to sit up. Hair tousled. Shirt partly unbuttoned. Eyes soft but watchful. Even half awake, he had the aura of a man who never truly let his guard down. Hakyun pushed up behind her, rubbing the back of his neck. He looked at her like she was the only solid thing in a world made of smoke. "Are you okay?" he asked quietly. She didn't answer at first. Because she wasn't sure. Last night's closeness. Their promises. Their intensity. It all felt like a wave she hadn't recovered from yet. "I'm fine," she said softly. "Just processing." Bok-yun nodded once, slow, understanding but not stepping back emotionally. He reached for a towel and handed it to her, his fingers brushing hers. "You don't have to rush." His voice was warm, grounding. "We're not expecting anything from you this morning." Hakyun leaned in from behind, his chin resting lightly on her shoulder. "Except maybe breakfast with us?" he said with a soft smile. Abiola surprised herself by laughing. A small, shy sound but real. But the peace broke too quickly. A sharp beep echoed from Bok-yun's phone. His expression changed instantly, softness gone, replaced by lethal focus. Hakyun sat up straighter, every muscle tightening. "Who is it?" Abiola asked. Bok-yun's eyes darkened as he read the message. "Beck cartel movement in Busan," he said quietly. Hakyun swung his legs off the bed. "They're getting bold." Abiola felt a cold shiver move through her. "What does that mean?" Bok-yun looked at her with an intensity that made her heart clench. "It means last night wasn't the storm," he said. "It was the warning." Hakyun slid a hand onto her thigh, steady and reassuring. "You stay with us today. No arguments." Abiola opened her mouth to protest. Bok-yun stopped her with a quiet command. "Abiola." Just her name. Full. Grounded. Protective. Her chest tightened. She nodded. "Okay." The twins exchanged a subtle look, relief mixed with something deeper, almost reverent. Hakyun rose and offered her his hand. "Come eat with us first." Bok-yun stood beside him, brushing her shoulder gently. "We want you close. Especially now." Abiola hesitated only a second, then placed her hands into theirs. The morning light spilled into the room, quiet and golden. But the storm waiting outside their walls was already gathering. And Part 3 had just begun. The blood oath. The dining hall inside the Hwan Syndicate mansion was normally full of noise, voices, footsteps, orders, tension. But this morning, it was silent. Too silent. Bok-yun and Hakyun walked on either side of Abiola, guiding her toward the long mahogany table as if she were a queen escorted to her throne. Their men stood around the room in complete stillness, heads slightly bowed, not in fear, but respect. Abiola felt their eyes. Not hostile. Not judging. Just watching. Because of her. Because of the twins' closeness to her. because the world outside was shifting and she was suddenly at the center. Bok-yun pulled out a chair for her, an act that shouldn't have meant anything, yet meant everything. Hakyun poured her tea, fingers steady even though his jaw was tight with unspoken tension. Abiola sat, heart uncertain. Finally Bok-yun faced the room, voice carrying the weight of a man stepping into war. "Listen carefully," he commanded. Every man straightened immediately. The Beck cartel moved again at dawn. Their trucks were seen heading toward our district. Hakyun leaned on the table, his eyes colder than steel. "They're not just provoking us. They're preparing for something larger." Abiola watched the way both brothers transformed. Gentle warmth replaced with the shadows of leaders born in blood, duty, and danger. Then Bok-yun did something unexpected. He walked toward Abiola. He didn't hide it. He didn't soften it. He didn't pretend she wasn't the reason war was brewing. He placed both hands on the table beside her, lowering himself so their eyes were level. "You need to hear this too," he said softly. Hakyun nodded, stepping closer behind her. "We're not keeping you in the dark anymore," he added. "You're part of this now. Part of us." Her heart stumbled. She gripped the edge of her chair. The room felt too small. Too intimate despite being filled with men. "Part of you?" she repeated slowly. "Fully," Bok-yun said. "Completely," Hakyun echoed. Before she could respond, Bok-yun turned to the room again. "Bring the oath blade." A hush fell like winter frost. A man stepped forward, bowing, and presented a small black box. Bok-yun opened it. Inside lay a narrow silver blade, etched with old Korean markings. Ancient, ceremonial, terrifyingly beautiful. Abiola's breath caught. "You're not." She swallowed. "You're not doing that for me, are you?" Hakyun stepped behind her, resting both hands on her shoulders. His voice was low, vibrating through her. "For you," he said. "And because of you." Bok-yun lifted the blade, its silver glinting coldly. "In the Hwan Syndicate," he began, "a blood oath is only taken for family." Hakyun leaned in close, whispering. "And for the person we die to protect." Abiola's heart thudded painfully. The room was still. No one breathed. No one blinked. Bok-yun rolled up his sleeve. Without hesitation he drew the blade across his palm, a clean, deliberate cut. Hakyun did the same, eyes steady, unwavering. Twin drops of blood slid down their hands, falling onto the polished wood. Abiola's eyes widened. "Stop, I don't want you hurting yourselves because of me." Bok-yun looked directly into her soul. "This is our choice." Hakyun tightened his grip on her shoulders. "Our vow." They pressed their bleeding palms together, twin against twin, brother against brother. Their blood mingled, the oath sealing silently in the air. Bok-yun spoke. "For Abiola's safety." Hakyun followed. "For her life before ours. Together. For her place with us always." Abiola's breath broke. Her throat burned. Her vision blurred. This wasn't romance. This wasn't infatuation. This was devotion too deep to undo. When they finally separated their hands, Bok-yun turned to her again. "You don't need to take the oath," he said softly. "We'll carry it for you." Hakyun crouched beside her, taking her hand gently. "But if you ever choose to be one of us, truly one of us, your place is already here." Abiola couldn't speak. Not at first. Then, voice trembling, she whispered, "I didn't ask you to do this." Bok-yun cupped her face, his blood-stained hand warm and gentle. "You didn't have to ask," he murmured. "You're the one thing we won't lose." Hakyun brushed his thumb across her knuckles. "And the one thing we'll go to war for." The oath hung between them, dangerous, sacred, permanent. And Abiola realized, this wasn't just their vow. It was the beginning of her own. The twins' secret oath. The night stole quietly over the Busan skyline, but inside the twins' penthouse, tension pulsed like a living thing. Abiola sat on the long velvet couch, her fingers curled around a warm mug of ginger tea Hakyun had made her himself. Bok-yun stood by the window, jaw tight, staring down at the harbor lights like they were enemies he needed to fight. Something had shifted. Something none of them were ready to say out loud. But Abiola felt it. She felt everything. The way Bok-yun's eyes kept flicking back to her, softening each time. The way Hakyun stayed close, too close, as if he feared she might disappear again. The way both brothers seemed to speak less, but breathe harder, like holding emotions inside was physically painful. She set the mug down and looked from one twin to the other. "All right," she said quietly. "What aren't you telling me?" Bok-yun inhaled sharply. Hakyun froze. The room went still. Then Hakyun moved first, crossing the distance and kneeling right in front of her, his hand gently covering hers. His eyes were deep, dark, stormy with honesty he'd been afraid to reveal. Abiola, we made a mistake. His voice cracked. We acted like the danger was the only thing we needed to protect you from, but we didn't protect you from us, Bok-yun finished from behind her. Abiola turned just as Bok-yun stepped closer, his face more open than she'd ever seen it. His voice was low, warm, trembling at the edges. You didn't ask to be dragged into our world. You didn't ask for the fights or the fear, or for the way we feel about you. Her heart thudded. Slow. Heavy. Dangerous. She had imagined this moment, more times than she'd dare admit, but hearing it out loud stole her breath. Hakyun rested his forehead lightly against her knee. We've been in conflict, he whispered. Not because of you. Never because of you. But because we're both drawn to you. And we don't want to hurt you or each other. Bok-yun sat beside her, but not close enough to touch. His restraint was painfully obvious. So we made a decision, a pact, before we spoke to you. Abiola swallowed. A pact. Hakyun lifted his head. Bok-yun exhaled. Neither looked away. We swore, Bok-yun said softly, that your happiness would come before our pride. And before our jealousy, Hakyun added. And before the family, Bok-yun continued. And before the Mafia, Hakyun finished. Their voices moved like they were reciting something sacred. Abiola's breath hitched. You're telling me you both choose me? No, Bok-yun said quietly. We're telling you, Hakyun said, that you choose. Silence slammed into the room. Not cold silence, electric silence. Abiola felt heat swell under her skin, heat mixed with panic, longing, and something too intense to name. Both twins watching her, waiting for her answer, trusting her with something they had never offered another soul. She stood slowly. Both men rose instantly. She walked between them, turning until she faced them like a queen in the center of her court. You two think I'm something fragile, she whispered. Something that needs protection from the world. But the truth is, I've stayed because I feel something for both of you. Bok-yun's lips parted. Hakyun's chest rose sharply. She stepped closer to Bok-yun first, touching his cheek. He leaned into her hand like her touch was a blessing he didn't deserve. You are fire, she murmured. You burn for me even when you try to hide it. Then she turned to Hakyun, gripping his wrist gently. His pulse jumped under her fingers. And you are storm, she whispered. You feel everything too deeply, too intensely, even when you pretend to be calm. She stepped back. The twins' breaths were ragged. I'm not ready to choose, she said finally. Not tonight. Not when everything is dangerous and the Mafia is still hunting us. Hakyun nodded slowly. Bok-yun swallowed, jaw clenching, but not in anger. In acceptance. Abiola reached out and held both their hands, one on each side. Just let me stay, she whispered. Let me figure out what my heart is doing. Both twins closed in at the same time. Not touching, just surrounding her. Protecting her. Claiming her without crossing the line she drew. Bok-yun's voice brushed her ear. As long as you stay, Abiola, we'll wait. Hakyun's breath warmed her other side. Even if it tears us apart. Her heart trembled. Because she knew. She wasn't just the woman they wanted. She was the woman they would fight fate itself for. And that was more dangerous than every enemy outside their door. The night the truth followed them. The wind rolled over Busan like a warning, sharp, cold, relentless. Inside the penthouse, everything was warm, dangerously warm. Abiola stood in the hallway leading to the twins' private wing, her hands pressed against the polished wall as she took slow breaths. She had tried to sleep. She had tried to quiet her thoughts. But everything inside her kept whispering the same thing. Nothing is the same anymore. Not after the confession. Not after the oath. Not after the way both men had looked at her, like she was oxygen and they'd been drowning for years. She finally pushed herself away from the wall and walked toward the dimly lit living room. The place was dark except for the soft glow of the aquarium light. She expected silence. She found Hakyun instead. He was sitting on the couch, elbows on his knees, head bowed. Still dressed in his black shirt and slacks, hair slightly messed, fingers rubbing anxiously over his lower lip. He didn't hear her at first. Then her soft steps touched his awareness and he lifted his head. His eyes, those gentle storm-dark eyes, locked onto hers. You couldn't sleep, he said quietly. It wasn't a question. Abiola shook her head. You couldn't either. He gave a small tired chuckle. My mind is too loud. She sat beside him, not touching but close enough to feel the heat radiating from his body. What's loud about it? She asked softly. Hakyun exhaled and it dragged something raw out of him. You, he whispered. Abiola's throat tightened. Before she could speak, footsteps sounded behind her, slow, heavy, deliberate. She turned and found Bok-yun in the shadows, wearing only sweatpants and a loose black hoodie unzipped halfway, chest rising and falling in a steady rhythm. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Did you think you were the only one losing sleep? Bok-yun's voice was deep, low, thick with emotion he didn't show earlier. Hakyun stood slowly. Abiola stood too. The air shifted, too many emotions crowding in the small space, too much unspoken desire and unresolved fear. Bok-yun stepped closer, eyes never leaving her. But Hakyun stayed beside her, offering silent steadiness. Abiola felt like she was standing between fire and water. And both wanted her. Bok-yun's voice broke the tension first. Abiola, we need to talk about something else. Pause. Something dangerous. Her heartbeat stumbled. What now? Hakyun exchanged a look with his brother. Both men straightened. The ambush in Busan wasn't random, Hakyun said. Bok-yun added, someone inside the organization gave your location away. Abiola froze. The room felt suddenly colder. They're not after us, Bok-yun continued. Not this time. They're after you, Hakyun finished quietly. Abiola's breath caught. Me? Why? Hakyun stepped closer, palms open, like he wanted to reach for her but wouldn't without permission. Because you're the one thing they can use to control us. Bok-yun's jaw tightened. And they know it. Silence fell again, but this time it was sharp, heavy, terrifying. Abiola swallowed hard. So, what now? What do we do? Bok-yun approached her slowly, stopping only when he was close enough that she could feel his breath. His eyes softened just for her. You stay with us, he murmured. You don't walk alone, you don't move without us, you don't leave our sight. Hakyun moved behind her, his presence warm and steady at her back. We won't let anything happen to you, he said firmly. Abiola looked from one twin to the other. Both watching her. Both vowing themselves to her protection. Both trembling with something deeper than loyalty. She opened her mouth to speak. But suddenly the twins stiffened at the same time. Bok-yun grabbed her hand. Hakyun grabbed her waist. A faint clicking noise echoed outside the penthouse door. Too soft for normal ears. Too clear for men trained in survival. Bok-yun whispered harshly, someone's at the door. Hakyun moved instantly, sliding Abiola behind him while Bok-yun reached under the couch and pulled out a black metal pistol. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. Stay quiet, Bok-yun breathed. Stay behind us. Hakyun reached for a second gun hidden in the bookshelf. The clicking sound came again. Not a knock. Not a key. A device. A lock being bypassed. Abiola froze. The twins raised their weapons at the same time, bodies forming a protective barrier around her. Get ready, Bok-yun whispered. Hakyun's voice was a low growl. They found us. And as the door handle turned, Abiola realized this wasn't about desire anymore. This was war. The penthouse ambush. The door clicked again. Slowly. Deliberately. Like someone was savoring the moment before violence. Bok-yun and Hakyun moved with lethal precision. Silent but sharp, two shadows forged in the same fire. Abiola stayed behind them, breath caught somewhere between her ribs and her throat. The lock gave way with a soft metallic snap. Then the door cracked open. A sliver of darkness. A glint of steel. A whisper of danger sliding into their home. Bok-yun raised his gun. Hakyun exhaled sharply. Abiola's fingers dug into Hakyun's back. And then, the lights shut off. Pitch black. A sharp gasp escaped Abiola before she could stop it. Hakyun's hand shot back, found her hip, pulled her against him. Don't move, he breathed, voice low, controlled. Bok-yun's voice followed, taut with command. Stay behind us. No matter what happens. Footsteps. 3, 4, 5 intruders. Moving fast. Hakyun pushed Abiola toward the kitchen island, guiding her into a crouch. Bok-yun aimed toward the sound of the steps, but he didn't shoot yet. He was waiting, measuring breath, timing the attack. A whisper sliced the darkness. Find the girl. Abiola's blood turned to ice. Hakyun moved instantly, faster than she thought possible, and fired toward the voice. A shout. A body hitting the floor. For left. Bok-yun darted closer to her, brushing her shoulder with a warm, grounding touch. Don't panic, he murmured. We're here. Another intruder rushed forward, silhouette barely visible. Bok-yun kicked the man's arm, sending his weapon skidding across the marble floor, then slammed him backward with a swift, brutal elbow. 3 left. The intruders returned fire, bullets tearing through the dark. Hakyun tackled Abiola to the ground, shielding her with his entire body. "Don't you dare lift your head," he whispered, breath hot on her ear. She felt his heartbeat, wild, protective, desperate. Bok-yun moved across the room with the silent grace of a striking cat. A flash of metal. A grunt. A second body dropped. Two left. One crept toward the kitchen island where Abiola was hidden. She saw the faint outline of a knife. She heard his breath. She felt the danger closing in. "Hakyun," she whispered. Hakyun turned just in time. He surged upward, grabbed the attacker's wrist, twisted hard, until the knife clattered to the ground. The man lunged again. This time Hakyun didn't hesitate. He delivered a punch so swift the man collapsed instantly. One left. The last intruder wasn't careless. He wasn't panicked. He slipped into the center of the penthouse like a phantom. Bok-yun stiffened. Hakyun's breathing slowed. They knew him. "Jae-sik," Bok-yun growled. "You're working with the traitors now?" A cold chuckle drifted through the dark. "You shouldn't have gotten attached to the girl." The girl. The word felt like a slap. Abiola rose before the twins could stop her, not fully standing, just enough to meet the sound of Jae-sik's voice. "I have a name," she said, her voice steady despite her shaking hands. "Abiola." Silence. Then a mocking snort. "You're the reason the twins are weak." The words sliced right through her. But Bok-yun's voice came right behind it, sharp as a blade. "Then you don't know us at all." The lights flickered. What? Twice. Then blazed back on. Jae-sik was standing in the open, gun aimed directly at Abiola. Her heart stopped. Bok-yun fired first. The bullet hit Jae-sik's shoulder, spinning him backward. His gun dropped. Hakyun kicked it across the floor, out of reach. Bok-yun stormed forward, grabbed Jae-sik by the collar and slammed him into the wall. "You don't touch her," Bok-yun snarled. "You don't even speak her name," Hakyun added, voice low, trembling with controlled rage. Jae-sik spat blood, smirking. "You think you saved her? The entire organization knows who she is now. Knows what she means to you." Abiola's breath caught. Hakyun stiffened. Bok-yun's grip tightened. Jae-sik whispered, "This is just the beginning." Bok-yun's fist knocked him out cold. The room finally went quiet. The danger was gone. But the fear stayed. Abiola stood slowly, legs trembling. Hakyun rushed to her side, hands on her arms, checking her for injuries with frantic tenderness. "Are you hurt? Did he touch you?" "Abiola, look at me." She looked. His eyes were full of a fear he'd never admit out loud. Bok-yun came up behind her, cupping her cheek with a gentleness that contradicted the violence still radiating from him. "You could have died," he whispered. Her vision blurred with emotion. "You too saved me." "No," Hakyun said suddenly. "Saving you once isn't enough." Bok-yun's jaw clenched. "We need to move you somewhere safer. Somewhere even the traitors don't know about." Abiola swallowed. "Where?" Hakyun answered softly. "Our family's safe house in Jeju Island." Abiola froze. Jeju. The place the twins never took anyone. The place no outsider had ever seen. Bok-yun touched her hand. "It's the one place no one can reach you." Hakyun slid a hand to the small of her back. "And we're not letting you out of our sight." Abiola felt her heart thundering, not in fear, but in something deeper. She whispered, "When do we leave?" Bok-yun met her eyes steadily. "Tonight." Jeju Island, where their guard finally fell. The private jet cut through the night sky, leaving Busan's chaos behind. Below, the ocean stretched endlessly, dark, calm and glittering with reflected moonlight. Inside the plane, the air was anything but calm. Abiola sat between Bok-yun and Hakyun on the long cream leather sofa. Not because she chose the middle seat, but because both twins refused to sit anywhere else unless they could keep eyes and hands close to her. Bok-yun's arm rested along the back of the sofa, his fingers occasionally brushing her shoulder, light but grounding. Hakyun sat forward, elbows on his knees, hands clasped, but he kept glancing back at her, checking her breathing, her expression, her pulse. The ambush had shaken all of them but the twins. They carried their fear differently. In silence. In tension. In the way their bodies hovered near hers like instinct, not choice. Abiola finally broke the heavy quiet. "You two need to breathe," she murmured. Bok-yun turned his head toward her, the corners of his mouth tightening. "You almost died," he said softly, too softly. "Breathing hasn't felt natural since." Hakyun's voice came out rougher. "When I heard that lock, my heart dropped into my stomach." Abiola reached out, placing one hand on each twin. Bok-yun's thigh. Hakyun's wrist. A simple gesture. But both men froze as if she'd set them on fire. "I'm okay," she whispered. "And I'm here." Hakyun covered her hand with his own, squeezing lightly. Bok-yun looked down at where her hand touched him, jaw clenching, then relaxed for the first time since the attack. The jet began to descend. Lights came into view, soft, scattered, surrounded by thick green forests and dark volcanic cliffs. Jeju Island. Bok-yun leaned closer, his lips grazing her ear. "Once we land, you'll see the one place no one else has ever touched." Hakyun added in a low voice, "A place even our enemies don't know exists." A shiver slid down her spine. Not fear. Anticipation. The safe house. The drive from the runway to the hidden villa felt like entering another world. Tall pines lined the narrow road. The night smelled of salt and flowers. The wind was gentle instead of sharp. When they arrived, the villa rose like a secret carved into the mountain. Dark stone, warm golden windows, surrounded by endless ocean cliffs. Abiola couldn't speak for a moment. Hakyun stepped behind her, voice soft. "Do you like it?" "It's beautiful," she breathed. Bok-yun unlocked the door, but instead of walking in, he turned to watch her reaction. "This is our most protected home. Only blood knows this place." Hakyun's voice dropped. "And now you." Her chest warmed. She walked inside. The interior was stunning. Open, warm lighting, soft wooden floors, a massive fireplace, ocean waves pounding gently far below. A wall of glass looked out into night-black water. For a moment she forgot danger existed at all. Bok-yun set down the bags. Hakyun locked the doors with 4 different mechanisms. Then the tension returned. Not fear this time. Something deeper. Something simmering. Bok-yun approached her slowly, hands in his pockets, eyes soft but intense. "Abiola, earlier when you stepped in front of me?" His voice broke slightly. "I thought my heart stopped." Hakyun moved to her other side, expression gentler than she'd ever seen. "When that man aimed at you, I didn't think, I just reacted. I've never been that scared in my life." Abiola felt surrounded by danger outside, but inside them. She felt surrounded by devotion. She reached out again, touching Bok-yun's wrist and Hakyun's chest. Both men leaned into her touch instinctively. "You two can't protect me from everything," she whispered. "No," Bok-yun said, "but we will die trying. And we won't apologize for it," Hakyun added. A long silence stretched. Slow. Warm. Electric. Bok-yun lifted a hand and gently tucked a curl behind her ear. The touch was soft, barely there, but her breath hitched anyway. Hakyun brushed a thumb across the back of her hand. "You're shaking," he murmured. "I'm not scared," Abiola whispered. Hakyun's eyes softened. "Then what is it?" She swallowed. "You too." Both twins inhaled sharply. Bok-yun stepped closer. "We said we'd wait. We meant it." Hakyun stepped closer too. "But we're not blind. We feel the pull too." Abiola exhaled shakily as they closed in, not touching, but close enough that their warmth wrapped around her like a cloak. "I don't want to make a mistake," she admitted. "You won't," Bok-yun said. "We trust you," Hakyun added. A beat passed. Then Bok-yun took her hand, slowly, deliberately. Hakyun slipped behind her, placing one warm palm against the small of her back. The moment was intimate, but not rushed, not overwhelming, just honest. Bok-yun's forehead touched hers. Hakyun's breath warmed her shoulder. "Let us hold you tonight," Bok-yun whispered. "Not as your protectors," Hakyun added softly, "but as the men who almost lost you." Her heart trembled. Then she nodded. And both twins exhaled, relief shaking through their bodies. Bok-yun pulled her into his chest. Hakyun wrapped his arms around both of them from behind. No hunger. No rush. Just the kind of closeness that melts fear and rebuilds strength. In their arms, Abiola finally let herself feel safe. Deeply safe. Dangerously safe. She whispered, "I'm here." Bok-yun's lips brushed her hair. Hakyun's voice hummed against her back. "And we're not letting go." A morning that changed everything. The sun rose slowly over Jeju, spilling gold across the ocean and painting the cliffs in soft warmth. Inside the villa, the world was quieter, gentler, almost unreal. Abiola woke up wrapped in warmth, not blankets but arms. Strong. Protective. Careful. Hakyun's body curved behind her, his arm tucked beneath her waist. Bok-yun was in front of her, head resting near her hands, his breathing deep and steady, as if sleeping beside her was the first peace he'd felt in years. For a long moment, Abiola didn't move. She simply felt the weight of their bodies, the calm in their breaths, the warmth that soaked into her bones. It wasn't lust. Not yet. It was the intimacy of survival. Of trust. Of bodies finding rest only when pressed together. But then Bok-yun stirred. His eyes fluttered open, dark, slow, soft, and landed directly on her. "Morning," he whispered. Her heart skipped. He didn't move away. He didn't pretend distance. He simply watched her like she was the sunrise itself. Before she could speak, Hakyun's voice rumbled behind her, deep and sleep-heavy. "She's awake." Bok-yun nodded without looking away from her. Hakyun exhaled, arm tightening around her waist. "Good," he murmured. "I didn't dream she was here." Abiola flushed. Slowly, gently she shifted, sitting up between them. Both men followed her movements, like two magnets drawn to her every breath. Hakyun rubbed the back of his neck, hair messy from sleep. Bok-yun sat with one knee raised, elbow resting on it, eyes soft but guarded. Abiola whispered, "Did either of you sleep at all?" Hakyun answered first. "I did. Because you were next to us." Bok-yun's voice was lower. "I didn't. I kept waking up to check you were still breathing." Her chest tightened with emotion. She reached for his hand. He took it instantly, like he'd been waiting. But as soon as her fingers brushed Bok-yun's skin, Hakyun's gaze darkened in a way she'd never seen before. Not angry. Not dangerous. Just possessive. Jealous. Not of her. But of how easily Bok-yun touched her, how naturally she reached for him. Bok-yun noticed the shift too. He smirked slightly. "Oh? Is that look going to be a problem, Hakyun?" Hakyun sat up straighter, expression unreadable. "It's only a problem if you forget she's not yours." The room pulsed. Bok-yun's eyes narrowed. "And she's not yours either." Abiola raised both hands instantly. "Guys, stop." Her voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Both men quieted immediately. She breathed slowly. "This, whatever is happening between us, can't turn into a competition. I won't allow that." Hakyun looked down, exhaling. Bok-yun looked away, jaw tight. Abiola continued, softer now. "I care about both of you. I told you that. Nothing has changed." Silence. Then Bok-yun spoke first, voice controlled. "We know. But feelings don't obey rules." Hakyun added, "And neither does jealousy." Abiola moved until she sat between them again, one twin on each side. She gently took Hakyun's hand. Then Bok-yun's. Both men stiffened, shocked. "I don't want either of you to feel pushed aside," she whispered. "And I'm not choosing yet. Not because I don't feel anything." She swallowed. "But because right now what we need most is survival. Safety. Time." Bok-yun's fingers tightened around hers. "Time will give you," he said softly. Hakyun squeezed her other hand. "And space. And honesty." Then something shifted. A softness spread in the air. A calm. A quiet understanding. For the first time since the ambush, the three of them were aligned, not in passion, not in danger, but in something deeper than both. Abiola exhaled shakily. "Thank you." Bok-yun brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. "You don't have to thank us." Hakyun leaned closer, voice warm and steady. "You just have to stay with us." She looked between them. Fire on one side, storm on the other, and her heart suspended between both worlds. "I'm not going anywhere," she whispered. Both twins relaxed, truly relaxed, for the first time since they'd brought her to Jeju. And then, a sudden buzzing cut through the moment. A burner phone on the nightstand. Bok-yun grabbed it, glanced at the screen, and his entire expression hardened. Hakyun sat up immediately. "What is it?" Bok-yun looked at Abiola with a seriousness that sent chills through her. "They found the safe house," he said quietly. Hakyun stood instantly. "How?" "No one knows this location." Bok-yun shook his head. "Someone does." Abiola's breath froze. Hakyun asked the question none of them wanted to say aloud. "Is there a traitor in your family?" The room went silent. Not peaceful silence. Not romantic silence. War silence. The kind that comes before everything changes. Bok-yun clenched his jaw. "Pack your things. All of you. We're leaving." Abiola stood. "Where?" Bok-yun met her eyes, voice dark, steady, lethal. "Seoul." Hakyun added, "To confront the traitor ourselves." Abiola's heart pounded. The quiet safety of Jeju was over. The world outside was waiting. And this time, the danger wasn't just coming for her. It was coming from the inside. The major confession. The storm over Busan had finally settled, but inside Abiola's chest the thunder still roared. She stood at the center of the safehouse warehouse, its industrial lights flickering, casting long shadows across the metal walls. Her wrists still carried the faint marks from where the rival clan had tied her, but in her eyes was something fiercer than fear. Resolve. Bok-yun and Hakyun burst through the sliding metal doors like a two-man army. They were bruised, bleeding, breathless, yet still impossibly beautiful in that dangerous, Mafia-perfect way. The moment Abiola saw them, her throat tightened. Abiola, Hakyun exhaled, stepping toward her with a limp. But Bok-yun reached her first. He cupped her cheeks with trembling hands. Are you hurt? Tell me where it hurts. His voice cracked. Bok-yun, the colder twin, the one who never let emotion show. Abiola's lips quivered. I'm okay. I was just scared. Not of dying, but... She swallowed. Scared you wouldn't come. Hakyun's jaw flexed. We would burn the entire country before letting anything happen to you. Abiola's heart clenched. They were both here. They were both alive. And she realized, painfully, beautifully, that losing either of them would break her. Bok-yun rested his forehead against hers, voice low and hoarse. I thought I lost you, Abiola. I've never felt fear like that. Hakyun stepped behind her, brushing her waist with gentle, careful fingers, touching her like she was breakable. You're home now, he whispered into her shoulder. Between the twins, Abiola felt her knees weaken. Don't do that, she choked, looking at both of them. You make it impossible to breathe. Hakyun smirked softly. We make you breathless? Good. Bok-yun's thumb brushed her lips. You don't know what you do to us, Abiola, he murmured. Her pulse jumped. What do I do? She asked, voice softer than air. The two twins exchanged a look, a silent, shared confession. Then, Bok-yun, you make us alive. Hakyun, and you make us ruined. Their voices overlapped, deep and reverent. Abiola's breath caught. Bok-yun continued, I can't lead the clan the same way anymore. Not when the thought of losing you makes my hands shake. And I can't pretend I don't want you in my future, Hakyun added, stepping closer until his chest pressed against her back. She was enclosed. Protected. Claimed. Abiola whispered, trembling, but what about your world? Your enemies? Your rules? Bok-yun lifted her chin. We will rewrite every rule. Hakyun kissed the back of her shoulder, slow, worshipping. For you, everything changes. Abiola felt heat crawl up her neck. You're both serious? Deadly, Bok-yun breathed. Hopelessly, Hakyun added. She shook her head with a small, breathless laugh. You're going to be the end of me. Bok-yun's lips hovered near hers, barely touching. And you're going to be the beginning of us. Hakyun's hands slid around her waist, pulling her into him gently, but firmly enough to make her gasp. The air thickened. Tension tightened. Their breaths mingled, hot and uneven. For the first time since she'd been taken, Abiola felt something stronger than fear. Desire, safety, belonging, all tangled. She whispered, voice hitching, don't make me choose between you. Hakyun pressed a kiss behind her ear. You don't need to choose. Bok-yun finally closed the tiny distance and kissed her, slow, deep, shaking like a man who'd almost lost everything. Hakyun held her from behind as if anchoring her to reality. Abiola let out a soft, helpless sound, the kind that made both twins freeze and inhale sharply. Bok-yun's voice dropped into a dark, reverent whisper. Abiola, don't make that sound unless you want both of us losing our minds. Her cheeks burned. Her pulse raced. And for the first time ever, she didn't hide the effect they had on her. She looked at them, scars, bruises, blood, devotion, and whispered, then lose your minds. The twins exchanged a look that said everything. Tonight would not just be a reunion. It would be a claiming. A vow. A shift no Mafia rulebook ever prepared for. Bok-yun pulled her close again. Abiola, after tonight, nothing will ever be the same. Hakyun's lips brushed her neck. Good. We don't want the old world anyway. Between the two of them, Abiola finally smiled, soft, overwhelmed, and dangerously in love. Outside, the night was quiet. Inside, three hearts began rewriting destiny.